So Arthur, tell us a little bit about the subject of your film, and that's Gary Davis. Who was this guy?
Well, Gary Davis was this song and dance man on Broadway, and all he wanted to do was, was to make people laugh, be an entertainer. And then World War II comes along, and he's drafted, and he chooses the Air Corps, and his own brother, who chose the Navy, gets killed, and he's ordered to bomb the city of Brandenburg. And he says, my God, why am I killing other people's brothers and families, because they're on the wrong side of some invisible line? This is crazy. And he gets back from the war, but now we call post-traumatic stress syndrome, and he's just torn up about, what he had to do, blowing up people in their schools and homes and factories. And he sees footage on Hiroshima. Oh my God, humanity's in trouble. But what can I do? I'm just one man. And so he's into these Broadway shows and so on, but he's so troubled by this that he quits, and he goes to Europe, and he pulls off this grand act of political theater that's so gutsy and dramatic and kind of earth-shaking that it rivets war-weary Europe, and people rally his defense. There's these huge rallies, all these famous people, Einstein, Camus, Sartre, all come to his defense, and it ends up actually helping trigger a movement which had a huge rally December 9th, 1948. The very next day, the Soviets, who had adamantly been opposing Eleanor Roosevelt's Universal Declaration of Human Rights, abstain, step aside, and it's passed unanimously. And in the film, Gary says, we'll never know why, but that evening, we the people, we took over, and we said we want our rights on the world level. And see the movie for yourself. You'll see about that. But so here's a guy with what I feel is a very significant part of history, something that helped in many ways inspire the people who later created the European Union, which actually we don't hear about this much in the U.S. But for almost 75 years, a continent that was torn apart by war. The nations in the Union haven't fought wars with each other. Nations that had been killing each other for centuries stopped doing it. Now, it didn't stop the wars outside because they weren't in the Union, so wars still raged. But this showed that law can stop war, which is what Gary's basic premise was. He asked the question when his brother was killed, why weren't the people who killed my brother arrested? Why wasn't I arrested for killing all these people in their homes, schools, and factories? It was crazy. And he found the answer. It's because we don't have world law. And so the movie really is an inspiring story that takes you on his journey into the kind of world we'd all like to live in.
Thank you, Arthur. And just for my own benefit, I'm curious to put such a project like this together. It's an excellent film. And to bring together, you had several filmers, whatever
right.
you call filmers, the
cinematographers and music, and lots of very expensive footage to buy. This historic footage. Many times they charge as much as like $100 a minute, a second. I mean,
it just sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it was a huge job.
And I was a music teacher myself, so to score that film, and I thought I was very happy. I thought they did a wonderful job. So how did you bring together such
brings out an incredible part of the emotion of the film.
Absolutely.
When you watch the same scene without the score, you don't go through the same emotional reaction. So I'm glad you recognize that score.
I always recognize the music in a film, and I tell people, I love that film. The music was so good, and I didn't notice it, but I certainly did.
That's the trick of a film.
Sure.
If you notice the music, it wasn't that good. If you don't notice it, and all you're doing is feeling the emotions, then the music is serving its purpose, which is to bring out the emotions of the story. So really, it's almost a whole separate movie that's playing to your emotional side while the film's playing to the logical, intellectual side. The two sides of your brain are coming together.
So
one side's listening, the other side's watching.
Right, and to have the dream, to think you could pull off a giant production like this, you must have just had such self-confidence, and you probably wouldn't redo it if you knew what it all took.
I had determination that I wasn't going to stop at anything. So,
let me
because what happened, I could never. I spent a couple of years putting in funding proposals, and nobody would fund it. Nobody would put up the money. Yeah. And finally, I said, "Well, heck, I'm not going to wait for someone else to greenlight it. I'm going to greenlight it."
Right, and let me just go back. What made you such a world citizen in the first place? Where did you get this inspiration?
Well, my mom and my dad. I mean, I was born into a very good family that lead me to doing this. My Dad, back in the 1940s, printed up this saying of his. It's a little card to say, "Seek not to contest with evil, lest ye be taken by the spirit of contention. Rather, concern yourself with goodness, for in goodness is the leavening that makes the whole loaf rise."
Wow.
Now, this is very akin to what Bucky Fuller says. You never change things by fighting the old reality. You just create something so good it attracts people to it. Or Einstein said, you can never fix things at the level at which they were created. You have to take it up to a whole new level. So if you're contesting with evil, you're down here with the evil on this side, and then you're just feeding it. But if you can step up to a whole new level, and you can create the vision, the image of the goodness, you can make that whole loaf rise. And so that's kind of been my task, and this vision I was given. My mom, similarly, was an incredible spiritual, and she and my aunt were among the first to go to University of Chicago Law School, first women, and wrote a paper on world citizenship back in the
Wow. Well, you were a natural.
In the late 40s, So.
But was there some pain affiliated with this? Was it watching the
Vietnam
War?
My mom passed away when I was 4.5, so I had her writings and inspiration, but I didn't. But my dad was very there for me and was a part of this. But I think it was more. The pain of, like as I mentioned, experiencing the threat of nuclear war and the death of our society. It was not so much personal. I was a conscious objector. I didn't go into the war, any personal experience of the war. But I worked for a long time for Admiral Iraq and General Corwitz and the other people at the Center for Defense Information, admirals and generals speaking out for peace, who had their powerful stories and who were willing to speak up for peace, because I realized this is how we need to create change. So I guess I've been a change agent since I was a kid. My dad said when I was 3 years old, I said, "Daddy, why don't they melt down all the guns and turn them into doorknobs?" And I guess that's kind of my task. How do we open the doors to peace?
Right. Now let me ask you, so Martin Sheen, you got Martin Sheen to introduce the movie, and then Leonardo DiCaprio and other people are in here. How did you get these folks on board for such a visionary movie?
We worked for in one way years to get Martin Sheen, but a year specifically to get him into the documentary. I had approached him earlier and met him at an Amnesty for Peace meeting and done various things with him when I was doing this bully proof project with kids, but it was still always difficult. But actually, it's an interesting story for filmmakers, and that is, when I decided we wanted to have Martin Sheen in the film, we of course first went to agents and managers who all said, no, he's not interested, or pretended they were connecting with him. Nothing happened. But I got to his personal manager, and she said, "Well, I'll send it to him. We'll see what he says." And then she reported back he wasn't interested. And but it turned out that networking, somebody got it to his wife, who showed it to him. And he calls me up. Actually left a phone message the first time. Anyway, he says, I fell in love with Gary's story, especially when he found that he could have power, and he didn't want it. He didn't want to give power to one person, even if it was himself. He wants it to be power to the people. And he said, when Gary said that, I just knew I had to do this film, and I'll donate my time and no cost, and I'll be in it. And but it took a year to get to that, and it was worth it.
Right, that's fabulous.
He's a fabulous person. And then at the end, I said to him, after we kind of worked out, from things that he had written before and so on, I helped work back and forth with him on what he'd say in the intro. And I said, "Well, should I send this to your assistant?" He said, "Never send anything to her. She doesn't give me anything that's important. Just fax it to me here." So all these people who are celebrities and so on, to survive, they've got to have these wonderful people around them who protect them from. Right. I mean, everybody in the world wants them and wants their stuff, and they've got to have that.
Sure.
And I don't blame them one bit. I mean, their life would be inundated if they didn't. But at the same time, if something's really important to them, you need to find a way to connect to them, and it can be a challenge. But the biggest part is that not to think of them as gatekeepers, but think of them as friends, you know.
Oh, so there again, you took this giant mixture of people and ideas, and I mean, I'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming if I had all this on my mind.
We have a wonderful segment where that's a clip we got permission to use from the from a human rights group that has people. It stars reading excerpts from the Declaration of Human Rights, and you know we got permission from them, and then we wrote to agents, and it's all a complicated process. But I don't even need to go into detail. But basically, we're still in the condition of needing just to finish up funding for. We bought rights to film festivals, so we have rights to show at film festivals, but we still need further funding now to be able to get all rights, all media, you know, and long term. So that's
right. And do you have a vision of where do you want this project to go? What do you want to happen with it?
You know, we'd like to have it out on national television, possibly PBS. We'd like to have it we'd like to have something that is used by groups and organizations who are affiliates who get it out to their members and use it to build their groups and to build our group. So not only Citizens for Global Solutions, but you know we've talked about Veterans for Peace and other groups to make this their film. Rotary International, other groups. We'd love to have groups embrace this as something that helps them fulfill their mission and helps us mutually build a better world.
Wow. And do you have any future ideas for projects going forward?
We do, but I think we've got a hands full enough for this right at the moment.
I hear you're talking about doing a film, you know, with actors.
Sure. Well, for one, I do hope that we'll eventually spark an actual feature film of actors playing Gary and playing this whole world, because it's an incredibly cinematic story, and I do have a screenplay for that as well, as I mentioned, that's gotten some traction, but that until we can inspire people with this basic story of the documentary and make that go big, that'll help pave the way to be able to do the bigger film.
Well, thank you, Arthur. Are you hopeful about the future we have ahead of us?
I am, because I think that humanity is going through rough times, but it's part of our whole emergence into a better future. And I think we have right now all the tools, all the capability, all the incredible creativity to create the world we choose. And the only problem is we're stuck in these old broken political systems that don't really bring out the incredible talent and connectiveness of people. I mean, all the world on every side of issues, if you start getting into fundamental things, whether you're Arab or Israeli or for Republican or Democrat or any other of these divides, and you get to, well, what is it that you really want? Well, I want a better life for my kids and my family. I want a safer community. I want have to have clean air to breathe and a decent future. You know, people want the same thing, and when we find a way to connect at that basic human level and to build a society that grows out of that reflection, we'll be able to unleash the incredible creativity of humanity, which already has ways to invent solutions to every problem we have. We just have to tune into and free ourselves from the stuck old systems so that we can emerge into the new.
Right. Well, your film's about the most inspiring thing I think I've ever seen, Arthur, so I wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for your persistence, you know, and well over a decade to put this wonderful film together. You got a standing ovation here at the Citizens for Global Solutions
meeting. We got that in several
meeting.
theaters. We got that. We showed our Rough Cut Woodstock standing ovations. We got that the Minneapolis premiere. We get it seems like this does rivet people and excite them, and I'm glad. That's what we want to do.
Thank you for
we want to entertain them and lift their vision.
Oh, you certainly did. Thank you so much, Arthur. It's a privilege to know you.
All right, thank you, and I appreciate you very much.